Hello, good evening, good morning, and welcome to Voiced, where we are bringing four pillars of the education system together to rethink, redesign, and recreate the education system together. We have learners, educators, parents, and the policymaker and employers to represent four pillars. And before I go ahead and we start our podcast, we are going to have a minute of silence together ourselves and to just be in the moment here right now. So. Welcome back. Thanks, and I would love to welcome our amazing panel today. I am your host, Archana, along with Mick. Um, I am mother of two self-learners and trying to live my life sustainably and with minimalism. And also, I've been trying to do go on a zero outsourcing route for education, food, and health. And Mick is an amazing co-host with me. He is a mentor, creative technologist, disruptive educator, and who is inspiring kids from 20 different countries. And actually, he has become a favorite teacher for all of them. So I welcome Mick here. And
Thank you.
here is our amazing panel. So first we have Palak Khanna. Palak is a founder and CEO of, at such a young age, a very great social initiative is called the Break the Ice, and she is also Harvard Innovation Fellow. The favorite quote she has is, "Helping one person might not change the world, but it could change the world for one person." Wow, very effective. And she is an 18-year-old youth change maker, as we just talked. She is working towards talking about all the things taboo and creating an enlightened youth community. She is an active environmentalist working towards adopting practical ways to save the environment. She also works as a mentor, teaching children and adults some important skills. And the question she is holding is, how can we as individuals create a society which has no taboos? Wow. What can be done to create a society where marks are no more the most important things in a student's life? Wonderful. Welcome, Palak. We have Shri Lakshmi Kari in a parent role today. She is a mother, she is a minimalist, and she is a blogger as well. The quote she has is, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." Wow. And she and her husband moved to India to take care of their parents, and then they realized that corporate world was not their cup of tea, so they decided to retire early. I think you are not retired, Lakshmi. You are more active than in a corporate life, so during the journey of their early retirement, they got introduced to unschooling and minimalism. That changed their perspective on life. They also share their journey through a blog here. Questions she's currently holding is, why doesn't the schooling system let the child take his or her education in their hands? Very appropriate question. This is the question what we have started this podcast series, How can curiosity be kept alive in the child? And like when we realize that most important things in life are not found outside but inside. Very deep questions you have, Sri Lakshmi. Welcome. Then we have Deepak Mon, one of my favorite connect and friend on LinkedIn. He is an assistant professor in OP Jindal University, and he has been experimenting and learning so many things. I can see in his post. He is also focusing on university governance and self-designed learning and raising two boys. The favorite quote he has from John Lennon is, "When I was 5 year old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them that they didn't understand life." Wow. Wow. He is on an unlearning journey, trying to unschool himself. And you know, he teach at the university, and his research concerns university governance and leadership. In his present role as a teacher and researcher, he has been experimenting with ways to change the sites, goals, and pathways of learning, at least for some of his students. Wonderful. The questions he is holding currently is how we can create local communities that can provide opportunities for children to flourish irrespective of their institutional affiliation. Wow. Wow. What can be done to make educational institutions more embedded in local communities so that then everyone can benefit from them? Wonderful, Deepak. That's what we are trying to do through Self Learning Cafe, and would love to be you too as a co-creator. Welcome. Uh, I can see some noise coming. I don't know. Anyway, welcome Naitik, and Naitik is representing our employer slash policymaker slash professional pillar here, and he is a senior business analyst at Amex. He is also a traveler and writer. The favorite quote he has is, "I'm not what you think I am. I am not what I think I am. I am what I think you think I am." Wow, very convoluted. I just got confused. Hopefully, I read it right. Mechatronics engineer with MBA in international business. From waking up for school near the Arabian Sea in a distant village in Kutch to his first job in Gurgaon, his life is driven by curiosity and creativity. He loves talking about the education system in India, and his books revolves around the same subject. He loves traveling solo, a mountain lover, ghost writing, and impromptu poems intrigue him. Questions he is currently holding is it possible to automate learning by reverse engineering AI? Wow, that's a professional mechatronics question. Is it good to teach by writing? That is another question he's holding. Welcome, everyone. And I now hand this over to Mick. Mick has been wonderful for, taking us through an amazing journey of listening to your views and through different questions we have created together. And welcome, Mick.
Thank you, Archana. Welcome, everybody. We are very excited to have you all here. As Archana was mentioning, the qualifications of our panelists never cease to amaze us, and the intriguing questions that you all ask are, just food for thought. And so we're really happy to have everyone here. As we do each week in our 3 rounds of questions, we always start with our learner, because our learners are those for which we're trying to create these changes, and often their voices are ignored or not heard. And not only should they have a seat at the table, they should have the lead seat at the table. They are the most important in this equation. So we're actually going to start with Palak. Our first question for you is, what do you think about the structure of education currently, and how do you think it benefits or harms learners' lives?
Thank you so much for the question. And personally, I believe that the structure of education in, for example, our country, India, is more focused on marks rather than skill learning. And it's definitely problematic to say the least. But it has its own pros and cons for people who need that motivation, need that push, and those who work well under pressure. It might be something which actually benefits them in their future to, create a good foundation for them. But for some, it can act as a very harmful tool where mental health issues and anxiety become a common thing. And because these are considered taboo topics, people don't even seek help for it. So they just suffer in silence, and that is why they can harm their life. So ultimately, it depends on the person and their personality and how they use the structure of education.
It's a very savvy answer for such a young lady. first of all, I love the idea that you're trying to remove taboos, because those anxieties and speaking about these things are part of what keeps people from healing from them. And I just loved about your answer that, because we're always talking about, no, everyone needs choice, they need choice. But you're right, there are some people who benefit from the structure and from the style of current education. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's more about choice, offering more choice. There should be a self-led option if you want to have that. And I think that's great insight. Thank you so much for your feedback on that. That was a great way to start off. Our parent for this week is Shri. Shri, your first question is, why do you think parents have become more obsessive and protective about parenting, especially in this generation of parents? I notice as an educator a lot of helicopter parenting. And what do you think is driving that currently, that sense of overprotection?
Thank you for that question. I think the reason is maybe because we, as the populations are growing, there is a lot of insecurity in terms of financially, as well as the system where we are losing the touch of extended families. So we are kind of dependent on just the three of us or the two of us. So that's kind of driving, and when you have less of ourselves, it drives the insecurity so much that we try to overprotect that small bubbles that we have. Earlier, we had people to depend on. If something fails, there was something you could always connect to the others, the elders, or your support group. Now the support system is coming down a little bit, and probably that's what's driving the insecurities and the over possessiveness of my child, my life, my house. That's what I think it is.
We've never had that. Like, there's some commonalities in the answer, but the extended family part of it has not been brought up before. And I think that's a brilliant point. It takes a village, and that village is now self-contained in your house, putting infinitely more pressure on parents. And then the competition with AI and automation and stuff kind of just ratchets that up a few levels, right? Where parents are thinking, we have to do this for our kids. And I understand where that pressure comes from, but I think you articulated it very well.
Yeah, and for, I think, integrated personality make, and that's the reason we moved back to our country, our roots, to be with my, like, the grandparents. So I totally I can relate to your observations, Lakshmi, there, that it's a big learning there. In our scriptures and in our Indian tradition, it is called that grandmothers are entire university in themselves. So this is something a very beautiful point you brought up here. So thank you for that.
Yes. Excellent first round answer so far. Thank you so much. Deepak is our educator for this week. These are the questions I got to answer when I was a panelist, Deepak, and I hope that you're as excited by them as I was to answer. Your first one is, what are the things you love about education in its current form? And what are the things you hate or at least strongly dislike about education in its current form?
So let me take the easier part first. The second one, which is what do you hate? So the biggest thing that I hate about the education system is there is too much focus on grades, too much focus on gathering degrees, or like you gain degrees. You don't gain learning, you don't gain knowledge, you gain degrees. You want that stamp, and that's the biggest thing that I hate day in day out as a person who teaches and who is passionate about teaching and learning. The second, I would say that our institutions, whether it is schools, whether it is universities, they are so cut off from the life that is actually the real life, which is outside the universities. So, universities or schools, the boundaries are so strict, no one from outside can come in and no one from inside can go out. While in their interaction, that's where most of the learning should happen, or that can enhance the quality of learning so much, so much. Uh, Another thing I would say that the students do not get their hands dirty. They're focused on marks. They're not focused on application of whatever they are learning. They're not getting their hands dirty. They're not getting into real stuff. They're just into books, and that to prescribed syllabus, and not going, at least for Indian education system, that I can see. Another thing I would say, I mean, there's a long list of things that I hate. Probably uniformity that we see in our education systems. Like at the school level, we have CBSE, and all schools of CBSE, even the best ones, the so-called best ones, will be following the same syllabus, the same patterns. Everything is same. So it is so homogenized. There is no way these institutions can experiment. This is like a crazy stuff that through institutions we are creating so much homogeneity that there is no scope for innovation. So that's the hate part. Probably if I go to the love part, I've thought a lot about the love part. What I love about institutions, especially the higher education institutions, university, is the kind of infrastructure, specialized infrastructure that is available in one place, both human infrastructure as well as the physical infrastructure, where you bring intellectuals together. That these are spaces which allow that intellectual freedom, that at least theoretically they have that possibility, and they can allow you to experiment, get your hands dirty. They are not allowing that possibility. That's a different question. And second, these spaces, especially universities, the public universities, they equalize opportunities. Anyone who is born in a poor family, through scholarship, can study in JNU or in institutions of high, say in Indian context, the public universities, they are fairly cheap. At least they used to be a few years back, and several still are. So these are equalizing opportunities for people from across the strata, which
Yeah.
which would be difficult outside. So
I had a
so
much
I'll
I had a much
yeah.
longer list of things that I hate versus that I love too when I answered this, Deepak.
I still have, but
Yeah.
I think because there are other people and other questions, I'm stopping there.
Well, you make a good point about college, though. We have a saying in the States, which is a horrible, horrible saying, which is college is the first time that you get to think, or
Mm.
you're allowed to or forced to think. I'm like, really? 13 years of schooling before that, and we're waiting for college. So you make good points about higher education. My question is,
Le-
why are we not starting that at 5 and 6 years old? Why are we
Yeah.
waiting till they're
Le-
18, 19 years
I
old?
have
So
even extreme experience. I remember very clearly for the first time when I thought was when I was in my second degree, and that too in the final year of that second degree. When you're saying that in college, for the first time you think, I did not think even for the 4 years my undergraduation and then first year of my MBA. After that, I started thinking. I clearly
yeah,
remember that.
yeah, great insights, and yeah, I agree with you 100%. Thank you for your answer, Nitik. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Our
Yes,
professional representing our pillar who's out there working, hiring people, or making policy. In this case, your first question, Nitik, is as a professional, do you think the current education structure help prepare you for the work that you do now?
yeah. Thank you, Mike. First of all, I would like to thank you all for inviting me to this platform, and your belief in itself that the change is possible. That itself is a something which I appreciate a lot, because that's the ultimate thing, the belief that some change is possible. When I want to actually answer to this question specifically, but we are looking at this problem at a very isolated way. Let's say if I say these are the problems with the corporate sector, and if I track that back, you will have to go very back. I mean, you will reach out to you will come back to your school, as you just mentioned, right? Even if we look at our wordings, like you see how we have started looking entire life, education, everything in isolation. The idea, who is a stakeholder, what is a stakeholder, that idea which has changed in history because of a lot of events, that the way which we have become unconscious about these concepts, that how do you define a stakeholder in your life or in your education system. That part of it. And you see interesting observations that I find is that we often, Indians especially, we talk about that this is our Indian education system, but what we forget is that it's a mix of Russian and Western and Indian, and it's a combined mix, right? Because of the history. I mean, you cannot have a pure Indian education system in its place, which you will track you back to the Indus Valley civilization. For example, collaboration. See, if when I look at these companies, when I look at the children out there in the college, they are not actually very competitive. There is a good section which is very collaborative. There is a very good section who wants to learn, who wants to collaborate. But what I think is even unconscious collaboration can lead to not very effective result. So even collaboration, such a powerful thing like collaboration, has to be very conscious in its itself. The decision has to be very conscious. Because I see corporates, startups, making decisions, and they collaborating at every point, and then, and and then it ends up doing more harm to them than the good. And hence, when it comes to education system, people always say Indian education system has done more harm to the country. In India, I always tell in corporates that even outside, that the biggest victim of Indian education system has been the corporates than anyone else, because you send a student that is who is not employable enough, and you also, there is this pressure of your salary because you want them to provide with them good incentives and all. But that training part, that gap of this training in this society, we are not able to train, as rightly mentioned by the previous candidate. We are not able to train them to the perfection, and this because our
So,
idea of training and learning
so
is still
non-employability.
yeah,
Non-employability
non-employable.
is the
Yeah,
biggest gap you see, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why what we see is that the corporates, I mean, they train them. So basically, I have in fact sympathies for corporate, but because the system is mapped such, so I always say to when it comes to education, as you asked this point, the employability issue is there, but I always consider that it is the responsibility of all the stakeholders, like you all, right? You invited me, a young person like Palak, or a young person like me to talk about this. That's I think the ultimate point. If I were in corporates, I wouldn't go and solve out problems in corporate. I would join this platform rather.
Thank you. Very
Yeah,
nice.
I think you're right, Nitik. I say all the time, the education system is not broken. It's designed to do what it does. It's
Yes,
designed for passive learning. It's designed for conformity, not individualism, not entrepreneurship. So it
yes,
functions exactly as it was designed to function. That's the
yes.
problem. It's not, when people always say it's broken, I'm like, it's not
Yeah,
broken.
that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
really
so
really
much.
resonate with that idea.
Great, great first answer. Palak, we are back to you for round two. Self learning by nature is non competitive, and of course, traditional education more so because of marks and grades. Do you think discipline and motivation are needed? Or how do you keep yourself growing, moving, and motivated as a young entrepreneur?
Thank you. So, firstly, I kind of don't agree with the first statement that self learning is non competitive personally, because I believe that, again, it's a subjective answer. I do believe that it's non competitive because it distracts you from the constant competition from the world, but it's definitely competitive within yourself. So, you compete
Mm.
with yourself through the process of self learning, and that's something that I resonate with and I actually like, because it's important that you compare yourself with yourself, you compete with yourself so that you actually grow and enhance yourself. And that's something that I do every day. So the last part of the answer would definitely be I doing the same thing. So I use self learning, I read books, I listen to like good music, and I just feel like that helps me to enhance as a person. And is motivation needed and dedication needed? Yes, definitely. I feel like for self learning to work, you have to be motivated, because you won't go back to the process. You won't go back to it the second day if you're not motivated enough.
Fantastic. This is, you made the great distinction, which is what's valued at school is competition with your classmates. Who got the better mark? What grade did you get on this test? And you're talking about competition with yourself, which is what I remind my students all the time. You're only competing against you and improving your own skills and your own abilities. It doesn't matter what he got or what she got. What matters
And,
is what you got, and continuing on your own journey of
and
self
I think
improvement.
her answer is in sync with all other learners, right? They always talked about that you are competing against yourself, and you have to, raise your bar every day to,
To me, that's the savvy of the self learner. Like
yeah.
Palak is that commonality is there for a reason. They understand that their competition isn't to the left and right of them in a classroom. It's within them, and that's why they're creating such successful entrepreneurial endeavors at such a young age. Excellent, Palak. Thank you so much. Um, Shri, for your second question, what do you think scares parents, and why do you think that parents often force their expectations onto their kids?
So I think it's a great question. Maybe I feel that it's the fear of failure is what drives every parent. What
Mm.
if my child will fail in this? What if my child, loses this? What if my child doesn't go to this status? Or this is, most of it is expectations and failures. and probably that's what drives them to give them, certain uh, expectations that the kid needs to meet when they grow up, or by this time they should have this. And that's probably also due to the, everything like previously I mentioned, financial constraints and the competition that is around the world. And most importantly, when we compare ourselves and when our needs are more than our wants, so that's probably what drives parents to force themselves and their vision on the child.
This is where I have to step in with parents all the time, Shri, is teaching them that failure is a good thing, that you don't want your child to fear failure and you don't want to pass that on to them. You want them to embrace adversity head on and say, oh, this is
Yes,
challenging, bring it to me, instead of, well, let me do one
yes.
plus one is two and show my mom my A and show my dad my
Yeah,
A.
I think that's great, Mike. And I think if you make failure part of life instead of saying that this is successes, like we talk so much about success, we stop
Mm.
talking about failure. And if we say that failure is the regular part, success comes once in a while. And
Yeah,
if
and
we
I think
teach the kid,
yeah, there is one very interesting statement I read somewhere, and it's, I think, very definitely chimes with all of us, is that there is no two words, success or failure. There is success and there is learning. So failure is not there at all. So
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what it is. Like to get to that success, it's a daily ritual of failing every day, and then you get better at it. And that's what success is, getting better at your failures.
yeah,
So I think that's
Yeah,
what it
I
is.
love to show kids specific examples of people they admire and look up to, and then literally tell them everything that they failed at along the way before they reach this quote unquote overnight success, which is never true. And
Very true.
that needs to be done more so that, the view of failure shifts away from something to be feared to something to be embraced and welcomed.
and
That's
and
great. Thank you so
Nick,
much,
just
Shri.
one thing I just wanted to share quickly is that we had started through our Asmakam celebrating failures, which was another platform we started where everyone can come and tell their stories of failure, and we started celebrating failure. So
Fantastic.
restart it again. Yeah.
Yeah, if you make it part of the culture, the embracing of failures, like that should be, part of the everyday journey, and then it becomes customary instead of something to be feared. Deepak, your second question was my favorite one to answer when I was a panelist, which is, if you had the authority to design your own learning space or school, what does it look like? What does it include?
The number one thing is there is going to be no compulsory attendance. You will come to the space only if you think you will benefit from being there. There will not be any forced classes. The learners, education spaces are supposed to be places where there are experts and there are learners. That's how it is designed, although I do not totally agree with that. That expertise is absolute there, but let the learners, let the students be so self motivated and let them plan their learning journeys. If I'm putting one student or say 40 students in a single program, let there be a possibility of 40 different learning pathways. Instead of one single, so the first period of this, second period of this, and every week you keep doing that. Instead of me going to the learners every single day, let the learners come to me when they face the problem, when they are motivated enough and they are seeking my guidance. So no compulsory attendance, and the learners focus. So focus is not on the teacher, that how much I can teach or the way I can teach, but the way they can learn. That's a combined thing. Second, I would say, is compulsory gap years. I would not let students stay in the education institution continuously. I'll kick them out and say, you have tried to learn something, now go and find out what does that mean.
Mm.
Struggle for 6 months, struggle for 1 year. I'll provide you mentorship. I'll let you meet new people. I'll let you be guided by these people. But then once you know what you want to do next, and then that meaningful thing, that okay, I'm coming back to this institution for this purpose, I want to learn this, I want to design this, I want to prototype this, then I'll be back. and then I'll learn all the theory or anything that is required to solve that specific problem. So the problem is more personally meaningful. I mean, in terms of physical infrastructure and everything, designing the learning space, one understanding could be the learning physical space, but I'm going beyond that. Physically, I mean, obviously, in sync with my previous answer, the boundaries between education, the students and the community, the university and the community would be broken. There would be no boundaries, and people should have a free flow in and out. But in terms of the design itself, it's more about the learner and their personally meaningful, so the quest for personal meaning. That's what I will do. No compulsory attendance, no grades, nothing.
Sounds like an excellent institution to attend, Deepak. We talk a lot about motivation, and are self learners going to be intrinsically motivated? Do you know what causes intrinsic motivation? Choice, support,
Choice.
mentorship. Let me choose my path, and you will not have to cajole me to do the work. I will want to do the work because I will have chosen that which I'm learning. And so I love that part of the answer. It sounds like a school I would send my son to.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Deepak. Uh-huh. Nightig, back to our professional. If you are in a position of hiring sometime in the future, whether that's corporate or otherwise, or startup, are you going to look for skills or the best degrees from the best learning institutions? What would be more important to you?
Yeah, it's very difficult to provide a one fit answer to this. But just before okay, first I'll answer that question is that, even if not just for hiring, because see, it's ultimately you're testing the student, right? That's what you do in schools. That's what life is about, right? And that question, that the wording of the question is very important to me. For example, let's say in textbooks, if you ask list down the 5 points for so and so reasons, or list down the 10 points of the history, or list down 5 points in this scientific explanation of some structure or anything. Other than that, if you just change the wording and if you just ask, what is your opinion about this? It changes the whole game. That one single change of words in your question paper makes the interviewer with the interview think like anything. And one very simple tricks are that, to make out the interviewee speak all the truth is, go silent. That's the one thing that I've observed is, the moment you go silent, the interview just gets into some sort of haphazard and starts answering the real answers and forgets all the mugged up answers. But it's very difficult for me to see this answer as a concrete one, because I have a lot of disagreements with almost everything that I face every day. So this idea of competition, as Palak just mentioned, and I would want to visit Deepak sir's institution if it's there any day. I wish there was never any attendance in schools. But this idea of self-learning and competition, I think my personal opinion is competition is really good. I think we should not move away from the competition with others. We must compete with others. We must consciously compete with them, because that will drive our prosperity on itself. Because competition is actually not the problem, according to me. Unconscious competition, the rat race. We forget that it was a competition. I think that creates all sorts of troubles and all sorts of confusion. But if you're conscious enough that it's a competition and you are there to compete, and then grades also won't look bad actually, if you really look at it that way. So that is what I think how systems should be.
Yeah, I think you make a good point too. There are ways to compete in a healthy way. In the US, it's common for younger ages of kids when they play sports to not keep score. And to me, that is
Yes.
insulting to the kids. If they can count, they're keeping score. What you're really saying is you're not old enough to handle winning or losing. And I say
Yes.
wrong. This is an opportunity to teach about winning with humility, about losing with
Yes.
grace. There's so
That's
many
very
lessons
important.
to be taught there. So I
Yes.
think your point is a valid one, that it's not about the elimination of competition. It's how do you teach it in a way that can be beneficial, as opposed to just your job is to get a better test score on math than this kid. That's not healthy competition, but competition is a
Yeah.
part of our world. So point well taken.
I
Nice.
definitely agree actually with Naitik sir. It's
Yeah, go ahead.
honestly, that's the correct word. Unconscious competition is not what, it should not be there. I definitely agree with that. And for me, yeah, go ahead actually.
No, I'm glad you jumped in. I mean, that it's important to hear from our younger voices when we're having these discussions. So I'm glad that you jumped in. And actually, your third question is just how do you think the other three pillars could help you to feel more empowered in your own journey, and feel like um, you have some support from the other three pillars. Like, what does that look like for you?
Okay, so I personally believe that for any institution, any organization, any group of people to work, you need to have a solid foundation and you need to ensure that all the pillars of support, that's how I term it, they collaborate well. So, personally, from all the three pillars, as a representative of the learners, possibly, and as well as a personal opinion, I believe that from the parents, it would be something as simple as ensuring that we explore our possibilities and we settle down to our own passions so that we pursue it with happiness, because at the end of the day the goal of life is being happy, as someone
Mm.
actually mentioned in their favorite quote. And along with that, from the educators, it would just be trying to teach in innovative ways. So I'll just give a small example. For a small child, when you're teaching them alphabets, you use songs, you use very colorful blocks, you use placards, and it gets ingrained in their mind because of the innovative ideas to register it. So I believe that should be something which should be incorporated in the education system. Maybe visuals, because obviously you're grown up, you can't use blocks, but something interactive which helps me to retain that information rather than just mug it up and vomit it out on a paper. And in terms of policy makers and professionals, it would just be maybe mentoring us learners so that we become scaled professionals in the future. That's it.
Excellent and comprehensive answer. And I couldn't agree with you more with the school part of it. Um, when you're 5 and 6 years old, you're playing, you're finger painting, you're imagining, you're dressing up, there's songs. What happens to all of that by fourth and fifth grade? It's completely gone. It's homework, worksheets, tests, memorize, regurgitate, and they lose their love of learning year by year, and you can watch it happen. So just great insight, Palak. I really appreciate your answer. Excellent work. Um, Back to Shri, the third question for you is a little different. It's not about the pillars. It's in your case, you have children. Who are the children that you want to give to the world, and what role do you think you play in their learning journey? So, what do you hope for your kids, and what role do you guys play in their learning journey?
So I think as a parent, what I want my child to be, if anything, is be self-reliant. And if I can assure him or her that if you can take care of yourself and your surrounding, and that's just more than enough. And if I can tell them that you don't have to, like, how to grow a plant, if you know how to get the food on your plate, and if you know how to take care of those in need, and if you can be empathetic and kind, to the degree possible, to your extent, those are the best skills that as a parent I would want my child to imbibe. And the rest of it, the rat race and all, it's we are forgetting our roots, we are forgetting why we exist. I think that was one of the very reasons why we too had retired and tried to slow down, and to tell the kid that as much, because see, as we grow up, we always talk about our childhood, we always refer back to the good memories. Why can't it be the
Mm.
same, and every day, even when we grow up? Why can't we say that this is the best day of my life still? You don't have to go back to your memories. So if you can make your day memorable every day, being in the present, being a slow learner, and just think about your surroundings, the people that are around you. That's what I'm hoping. We would want our child to learn, but not sure how successful or not we turn out.
Well, your approach of self-reliance first is the exact polar opposite of helicopter parenting. It's teaching your child to be independent and focusing on things like empathy and compassion. That is that is a solid approach, I promise you. And I see the results of it when those kids come to school versus the kids who unfortunately have the helicopter parents. One group of kids embraces
Yes.
challenges, one group of kids freaks out, needs constant reminding that they're doing well, thinks that any test that they're given that they fail
Sure.
on means they're a failure in general. And
Right.
your approach produces the exact opposite of that, which is, I didn't do that well on this one. What could I do to do better? And that's what you
Right.
ultimately want. Effort-based
Especially,
learning, not
yeah, I
results.
think especially I just loved how beautifully you explained that why do we love our childhood, and how, like,
Mm,
why cannot every day be a childhood, and like why cannot be happy every day, and why do we remember childhood so much? So that
yeah.
itself proves that after we grow up, the life is more stressful, no happiness, no peace,
Correct.
and I think wonderful.
Correct. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, we somehow in the race, we tend to forget that, we are living. Living is more important than this ladder. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Beautiful answer, Sri. Thank you so much. Deepak, your third question as an educator, what do you need from the other three pillars? What support do you need from the other three pillars to be more effective in your role as an educator?
Uh, so from the students, from the learners, the first thing is stop being afraid. Stop being afraid, start experimenting. Seek help. Don't be afraid to seek help and seek mentors. That's one thing. If you can do that, I think if you find the right mentors, you will do the experimentation. Stop being afraid. That will happen naturally. So if you can find mentors, that would be great, and then you'll be able to do that. And I'm an educator, and I would say exactly the same thing is required for other educators. Leave the other pillars. Even we as educators need to experiment, to seek help, to continuously stop being afraid of failures, or in innovating. I mean, that's what we also need. We need to be learners, continuous learners, if we are to be educators. That's one. From job creators, my ask is simple. They have one of the biggest power in the world to change the education system and the focus of the education system. Have a clear open policy which where you vociferously say, we do not value grades, we do not value degrees. What we are seeking is, these are the skills, anyone can come and prove. I'm not looking for your education certificate, your degree certificate. And that single thing can change the focus of the education system from degree granting and grades to learning. That's one. Policymakers, I mean, I would say policymakers, I'm adding policymakers there. You need to give a lot of freedom, or you need to equalize opportunities for all the sections of society, because there are a lot of people, when I think about unschooling or homeschooling and all that stuff, it's a privilege to even think about that I can homeschool my child, or I can unschool my child, because there are people who leave their house at 6 a.m. And come back at 8 a.m. so that they can have those 2 square meals a day, leave even 3 square meals a day. So the government does have a lot of role. They need to have that funding and equalize opportunities. So you need to create those institutions where these individuals can go and have that psychological safety. You are not continuously afraid. You are well fed. You can think and act. From parents, I have a simple ask. Don't put your expectations burden on the child. Let the child be free. Let the child experiment and find
Yeah.
their own path. that
Yeah, I
that's
love
what I would
your
say.
top down idea, because that is what it will take. If the end goal is to get them great jobs or their financial success, or that's the goal in the parents' mind, until they shift what they're looking for, the institutions won't
And
shift, and the kids are going to have that fear of failure and passivity instilled in them from a very young age, and that's hard to break for them when
wonderful.
all that's shown to them is the only thing that's valued is your grades, your degrees, your accomplishments in that regard. So great insights as far as
Yeah,
the
great, Deepak.
top-down approach.
Actually, let me tell you that for last 3 years we have been designing this alternative to higher education program, and exactly same thing we have been talking, that we need to go top down, because unless employers say that we are not looking for degrees, we are not looking for grades, we are not looking for big branded colleges, then only parents can actually adventurous can be adventurous enough to put their child into a self-learning route, because they know that now this is not needed, and then they can allow their children to be, because now it will take out their fears of future or career or anything, because they know that if my child is skilled enough, he has an integrated personality, he definitely have a taker in the world who would value those things. So wonderful, love
Yeah,
that.
it started. It's just not on a big enough scale yet. Like
Yeah,
Apple, Facebook,
many, yeah,
Google, they're already
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
saying
Very few,
skills over
very few.
degrees. And I think
yeah,
on last week's podcast, an even better answer, passion over both. If you have
yeah.
passion, I can teach you the skills. And I'm like, that's my favorite answer now of all time. Is
Yeah,
if you're passionate and compassionate, we'll teach you everything else.
right, right,
So that's
Sure.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent, Deepak. Thank you so much. Nitik, for your third question, as a professional working in industry, how do you think you can support creating a learner-led education system? Like, what can you contribute in that way as a professional?
Right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm launching a firm that is going to train people from colleges, and they're going to test them, and they're going to directly hire them. It's all an automated software that we are developing. Because again, I still feel the same, because I can see the gap of the people above me. I can see the gap of this age group below me. When I listen to Archana ma'am, Deepak sir, Sri ma'am, and there is this element of Indian parenting which I observe, which is very common in India. And that system, and what all they say, especially what Sri ma'am mentioned, that is not very different of how teachers used to be in the older Indian education system. That's a very interesting analogy. That the teachers were just like what they used to say things what the parents are saying. What I think is that, as I mentioned, I'm directly going to the college. I mean, as a corporate in corporate, I do not think we can do anything here over the at the end part. I mean, it's the end part, right? The corporate, you're almost there. I want to try to go to back to the colleges. Give them a test. Again, I have to stick to the grades. See, as mean, if we have this idea that if we change the grades and if we change the system altogether, and everything would system would fall in its place, we would be able to do a lot, but we will still face some of the other problems. So grades, I think it's not the fundamental issue. This fundamental issue is, I again think, it's going to sound like a big word. It's about the consciousness of the decision. I mean, the decision making of the students, of the colleges, of the corporates. I know. I mean, these are same stakeholders for me. The decision making has to be very, very conscious. As I mentioned about the collaboration, competition, everything. I mean, you need to be very conscious in how you are deciding your stakeholders. What are you trying to solve? Because the grades and I'll mention one very last important point, which I know will be very difficult for you to agree on this point, and no one agrees with me. Majority, most of the people don't agree with me. This IT that this technology that we have developed so far, going back to the ages, it's actually a symptom of that inefficiency we are trying to solve in the system using this technology. So it's not. I'm not happy to see AI algorithms getting powerful. They won't ever get consciousness, but that means that system is so inefficient. To automate it, we are needing these technologies. And why I am thinking this is because when I look at Indus Valley civilization, such an urbanized, extensive culture used to work. The system was in itself used to work on automation. The people, their learning was on automation. So that's where I'm trying to address things in the system, sticking back to the roots of Indus Valley civilization.
Excellent. Well, just once again, most impressive answers throughout our panel and the 3 rounds of questioning. You all gave us lots of food for thought and lots of great insights. And it's not about agreeing, it's about what do you think based on your experiences and what is your viewpoint on the questions that we're asking, because it just adds to the conversation and the overall episodes as we accumulate them. It just adds more and more to the breadth of each answer. So deeply appreciate all of your insights all the way across the panel. Now it's time for your exam from the tough examiner. Mrs. Archana is coming your way, so be prepared. Archana, back to you.
Thanks, Nick. It was so wonderful to listen to everyone, and especially when Natik said that somehow, it's there in my mind that this technology and technical advancement, but then again, it's a tool. How do we use it? But definitely, I'm with you that we have been trying to fill some gap of our inefficiencies. Very true. Anyway, So everyone ready for the exams?
Good luck,
heartbeat
everyone.
is heartbeat is raising. Okay, so our first, and I have couple of questions which are common for everyone, and anyone can go first. It's I will not ask who to go first, and then we have some particular questions for individual pillar. So the very first question is, in one sentence you need to tell what do you want to start, stop, and continue in current education system.
Start the opportunity of self-learning, stop the same old syllabus, and continue the flexibility for change, adapt to the change.
Very nice.
Yeah. So is it like, do we all answer this, or is it just
Yeah, everyone
okay?
needs to
Okay.
answer that.
Since I was always the talkative student, I would go first. Uh, Start living consciously and stop living unconsciously. I mean, period. I
Okay.
It sums up a lot.
Yeah.
I try to.
Yeah.
Should I go next? Okay. So for
Sure.
me, it would be starting skill learning, stopping overburdening, and growth in terms of an entrepreneurial mindset, as well as yeah, passion. I don't know how to explain it, but growth in terms of motivating people to pursue their passion.
Yeah.
Okay, so stop, and that's obvious for me. Stop focus on grades. Start flexibility for children or learners to design their own learning experiences. And what should grow is opportunities for reflection and experimentation. That's
Very
what I would
nice.
say.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We have been collecting so amazing responses to this question from last few episodes. One thing, the next question for everyone, and anyone can go first. One thing you have unlearned since you started self exploration or you started growing in maturity. Uh, One thing unlearned.
I think it would be the idea of being perfect every time. So, I'm trying to experiment, and like Deepak sir mentioned, that in the age that we are today, many people don't encourage young students to explore, experiment. But I do that irrespective of whatever society feels. So, I think that it is the idea of being your authentic self that will take you places, that will help you in your experimentation and give you the opportunities that you want rather than being perfect.
Wonderful. Great.
Uh, what I have unlearned is to think in binaries and consciously leave the poles and think about the 50 shades of gray in any topic, anything. So avoid binaries and think about the complexity, and that's a huge learning.
Wow.
Deepak, I
Nice.
What
love
I
that
have
because I just real quickly, like, unnecessary binary choices is something that I talk about to people all the time. Unnecessary binary choices. It's almost never black or white. It's almost certainly 99.9% of the time one of the shades of gray. So I love that
Yes.
answer.
Yeah, it
Sorry to
is.
jump in, but I had to.
Yes. Wonderful.
Shri and Nitik.
Yeah, so what I have unlearned is, to be really in the moment. I have to always be conscious, very conscious that I don't put in my future into the present. So that's what I've been doing it with my child.
Great. Be in the moment. Palak? Oh, no, I think
Yeah.
Netik. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have unlearned. I mean, it has been a long journey. I'm only 26, and it feels like I don't know. But yeah, I was actually I started believing. I started disbelieving the idea that anything is possible. But but after a lot of episodes, after a lot of things, I've started believing in that idea again, and that has changed a lot of things. And again, on the ending note, because until I give a conflicting idea, I just can't sit still. That binary and the dynamic thing, that has been a very very big point of there has been a big conflict with me, that if should you look at things at 0 or 1, or should you look at them by dynamic. This
Mm-hmm.
was the conflict I was not able to solve for quite a long period of time, and what I realized is, actually, again, it reached to the same point that I used binary thinking a lot in my day-to-day life. That makes my decision making a lot quicker and faster. Like the policy, that should I accept this or should I not? Should I take this decision or not? For your trivial decisions, it started helping me a lot. So again, I reached to a same. Again, this is a very personal opinion. It may not be true at all. But again, I reached to the same opinion that consciously, if you choose binary and dynamic, it will help your learning. It will increase your speed of life in a
Yeah.
drastically different way.
Thanks, Naitik. One surprise question comes uh, to test your observation power. In the poster, we have written for voice that when we want to recreate the education system, we want to move from one to another, and there are different words given there. So, where do we want to move from word in a new education system, or new when we recreate the system, uh, like we want to move from word to.
I would say world.
I hope no one is
That's
cheating here.
yeah. I mean, live life, uh, living instead of just reading or giving exams. Live
Okay,
in
another
the real
another
world.
another question is, where do we want to move from consumption to.
Creation?
Yeah, it's right on the screen actually.
Rock
Yeah.
got that one.
Okay, so if you were to write your autobiography or book, what would the title be?
For me, it'll be something very abrupt, but very meaningful actually. It would say, to all the relentless, ambitious dreamers, dot, dot, dot. So it won't have my name on it, but it'll just say to all those people, dot, dot, dot.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and I have this title already, because when I started writing my book, I started writing my own journey with the education system, and the name is, again, as you all kept mentioning, about "Unschool Me, Please." So that's the title
Unschool
which
me, please. Wow, that is wonderful. Deepak and Shri.
For me,
A
it would
man who wanted
be.
to.
So go ahead, Deepak.
She.
No, I wanted to say life through my eyes. That's all.
Mm, yeah. Great.
For me, it would be a man who wanted to do so much but could not.
Why?
And there are so many things I want to do, and then we have 24 hours.
You are like me. I think I want to do everything in the world. So, yeah, great. Name three life skills which are must have for anyone in the world.
Hmm, can I?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The first one is thinking critically and holistically. Not just critical thinking, but also looking at all the dimensions, multiple dimensions of an issue. That's one. Second is ability to communicate what you are thinking. And the third is ability to turn that communication into action.
Hmm. Yeah,
So that I would say. Convert your thoughts into actions.
great. Who is going next, Shri or
I
Netik?
think for me it would be compassion, kindness, empathy. I mean, if you have the ability to be in the other person's shoes, I think most of our problems will be resolved.
Mm-hmm. Netik.
yeah. I think there are three things that it has come out is non-selective in learning, uh, conscious self-reliance, as Sriman mentioned a lot, and conscious independent thinking.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
me, it would be collaboration skills, maybe dedication, and finding the right balance, between work and life.
Wow. Great. Oh, so far everyone is doing great. uh,
Mm,
meaning of happiness in one word and meaning of success in one word.
okay, so I'll go first. Success is to be able to go back and say, I won't change a thing. And happiness is when you're sitting with your loved ones and not have to worry about anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Happiness, I would say, is being calm, being relaxed, and success, doing what you love.
Mm. Very simple answer, but very profound. Yeah.
For me, it would actually be both the things would be similar. It would just be finding the right balance for both. Because once you do that, you're successful in life and you're happy.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh, for me, happiness is something we in India we call nirvana,
Mm.
and for success is basically an outcome. I mean, we have never looked at success. I mean, you all know. I mean, the self-learners. I mean, I've
Just
never been
one
able
word.
to define. I've not been
One
able
word.
to define honestly. Outcome was with the one word, outcome.
Sure. And in our first episode, Mick intelligently combined two questions in one answer, saying that for me, success is happiness.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I actually cheated on this one when it was my turn, and I said for me, success equals happiness. Because I was asked by my students, my son is 7 weeks old. They said, "Mr. D, what do you want your son to be when he grows up?" And I said, "I want him to be happy." Those
Yeah.
are my not. It has nothing to do with his job or what he chooses to do or who he chooses to be. I want him to be happy.
Yes.
That's my
Yes.
job, is to
Yeah.
make sure that
The
that
quote that
can
I
take
love,
place in him.
Yeah. And the
the
next
quote that I
question.
mentioned, John Lennon's,
Yeah.
"What do
Yeah.
you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah,
Happy."
yeah, that was really beautiful, Deepak. Anyway, so our last common question for everyone is, what is one common belief which is practiced in our current world, which needs a paradigm mindset shift, from, like, as per your views or your thoughts?
So, should I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think in one word, the idea of competition. I
Mm-hmm.
think we all talked about it throughout the session, and I think we have a fair idea of what we all were thinking. So, the idea of competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shri?
I think it would be gender roles, predefined gender roles is
Mm-hmm.
something I would say that, we have to rethink just like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one set of rules. It has to evolve just like how we are evolving.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Naitik or Deepak?
Deepak can go first.
Yeah, cold calling. Uh, I would say the whole idea that grades reflect anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leave everything. Grades reflect anything.
Mm, yeah. Oh. Yeah. Grade reflects anything. Yes. True. Naitik?
Yeah. Now, I want the world to rethink the idea that world peace is just a concept.
Mm-hmm. So we are in illusion.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great round of common questions for everyone. Now I'll be just asking specifically to learner. Just a very simple question. What is your favorite time pass?
Oh, it would be something very silly, but it would be listening to music and letting Spotify decide the next song because it's both exciting and the curiosity keeps you going because the same
Yes.
mundane playlist just bores you.
Yes. Wow. Okay. My next question is for Sri. As a parent, one thing your child, I think you have son or daughter, I think daughter, but one thing your
Daughter.
child, yeah, one thing your child hates most about your parenting.
Probably to have to ask permission to go beyond the boundaries. Yeah. So earlier we used to all have happy go wherever we could, but yeah, probably that's the one she would hate.
Yeah. And my next question is for educator Deepak. One thing you absolutely hate, but still you have to do on a daily basis as an educator.
Great students.
Great.
Great, my students. I tell them on the very first day of every class. I tell them after every assignment, but I can't help it.
Yes. and and then how authentic then you are when you are grading, I because your mind
I
is
have had
there.
students. I have had students who said, "Sir, you have given me less, and I want that much, and I've increased that." I mean, I have to be honest. I said, "Oh, you want 80? I'll give you 80. I don't care."
So you give everyone A or everyone C?
No, I give. I actually do the assignments. Uh, Assignment there is it's easy to decide because there are grades, there are parameters. You can do that. But what that grade reflects, that's my problem. So in
Mm-hmm.
that assignment, what do you take with that assignment? So I give a lot of feedback, and I say focus on the feedback, don't focus on the grade.
Yes,
That's
great.
that's what I try to do.
And the last question for Naitik is, so currently you are working, right, as a business analyst, and probably you are still currently hiring, or if you start hiring folks in the future, and you come across someone who you interviewed and who faked their degree just to get the job, what would you do that time? But he is skilled, he is an like very nice human being. What are you going to do?
Uh, an honest answer. Like if you if
Yes.
if, if you if you watch the TV series called Suits, and you know what happened then with them, so inspiring from them, I would not hire the candidate. I would say that if degree is the concern, you go and sort out and do something about that thing. Because even if I give the job, because the system is such, it's going to take a long time for the person to go and break the system in. Because see, in corporates, you think that degree is just the initial part. Even after 10 years, even after 15 years, they're going to look at it. I mean, no one can do anything about it, right? Even if I won't, the next company is going to look at it. So I would say, if it is about degree and if you're faking it, then definitely you're going to create problems for me. But otherwise, I don't care what your degree is, but you can't fake it, obviously.
Yeah, great, great. Thank you, everyone. And it was a wonderful 1 hour with you all, some with some interesting and some deep reflections and views and ideas to share to recreate and redesign and rethink the education system. And thanks again, everyone, as well as my wonderful host, co-host Mick, who has been having very exhaustive days and night because of his newborn son, but still he loves me and he is here with all of us. So I really, appreciate that. And thanks again, everyone, for your time. And looking forward to reconnect with every one of you. And just spread the word. We are looking for, more such people who can come and share their insights on how do we design the system together. Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
moving on. Great
Congratulations,
Thank
Mick, by
conversation.
you.
the way. Congratulations, Mick.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. I'm heading to sleep. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye. Bye. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. I think Mick left. Thanks, Deepak.
Thanks, Archana. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
yeah. Bye, bye. Let's connect soon, Deepak. I think you and me, like
Sure,
I
sure.
share a lot of things in common, and we actually should, start thinking and creating something together for the self-learning
Sure,
cafe. Yeah.
sure,
Thanks a lot.
Archana.
Yeah, this was fun.
Okay. Bye
Thank you.
bye. Good
Bye.
night.
हाँ मातू रानी, अच्छा मेरा पॉडकास्ट चल रहा था, चल बाद में लगाते.